In a heated exchange, sports commentator Dan Patrick recently lost his cool on Sheryl Swoopes after she expressed criticism toward Caitlin Clark, the rising star of women's college basketball. The interaction became a focal point of discussion in the sports community as Patrick defended Clark's talent and impact on the game, while Swoopes, a legendary figure in women's basketball, voiced her concerns. The clash between these two prominent figures highlights the growing tension and differing opinions surrounding Clark's meteoric rise in the sport.
Caitlin Clark now has the rookie record, the history of the WNBA, as she's now going to try to set the all-time record, but 12 games to go. Now, this is happening exactly how I scripted it. I told you this is going. They loaded up the schedule, front-loaded Caitlin Clark on a bad team, the worst team because they drafted her, number one. They were going to load up against better competition, and she played an entire college basketball season, and she didn't play well. And I said at the time she didn't deserve to be on the Olympic team. And at the time I felt that. But she got rest, the schedule not as demanding, and now you're seeing Caitlin Clark. And for everybody who talked about, she's just a shooter, she's already set the all-time rookie assist record. For somebody who's the greatest scorer in college basketball history, and she is an incredible... See, I think that was lost on a lot of people. Her ability to be able to find the open person, it's something that you're born with. And, if you're one of her teammates and she's coming in, and I said at the time, she will try to ingratiate herself as a teammate by passing first instead of shooting first. And that's exactly what's happened. And she's played incredibly well. They've played incredibly well. And I know we want to make this the Rookie of the Year debate.
Dan Patrick, a seasoned sports commentator known for his measured and insightful takes, found himself in an unexpected and uncharacteristic moment of frustration. The catalyst for this was a conversation with Sheryl Swoopes, a basketball legend in her own right, about Caitlin Clark, one of the most exciting and talked-about players in women's college basketball today. Dan Patrick has been a staple in sports broadcasting for decades, bringing a blend of wit, knowledge, and respect for the game to his audience. He has interviewed countless athletes, coaches, and analysts, always with a professional demeanor. Patrick's deep appreciation for sports, coupled with his ability to connect with listeners, has made him a beloved figure in sports media. His shows often strike a balance between serious sports analysis and light-hearted banter, making him a trusted voice in the sports community. On the other hand, Sheryl Swoopes is no stranger to the limelight. As one of the pioneers of the WNBA and a three-time Olympic gold medalist, Swoopes' impact on women's basketball is undeniable. Her legacy is built on her remarkable skills on the court and her trailblazing role in advancing women's sports. Swoopes has been vocal about the challenges and triumphs of women athletes, often advocating for greater recognition and respect for their achievements. Caitlin Clark, the subject of their heated discussion, is a name that has become synonymous with excitement in women's college basketball. Her ability to score from anywhere on the court, combined with her court vision and competitive spirit, has drawn comparisons to some of the greatest players in the history of the sport. Clark's rise has been meteoric, captivating fans and analysts alike, and she has quickly become the face of her team and a prominent figure in the NCAA. Clark's style of play is electrifying, and her confidence on the court is palpable. She plays with a swagger that endears her to fans, but sometimes rubs opponents and critics the wrong way. Her performances have not only led to personal accolades, but have also thrust her team into the national spotlight. The media, including Dan Patrick, has been quick to praise her talents, often highlighting her as the future of women's basketball. The discussion that sparked the controversy began innocuously enough. Swoopes was invited onto Patrick's show to talk about the current state of women's basketball, a subject she is deeply passionate about. The conversation naturally shifted to Caitlin Clark, given her prominence in recent sports headlines. Patrick, like many others, had been effusive in his praise for Clark, noting her potential to become one of the greatest players in the history of the sport. However, Swoopes offered a more critical perspective. While she acknowledged Clark's talent, she expressed concerns about the overwhelming media attention the young star was receiving.
How much more experience that gives you over other players coming in, right? So people say, dang, like he or she's killing them, but you have a 25-year-old playing against a 20-year-old. Like, you should be killing them. Because you've been doing it a lot longer than they have. You're going to break a record. To me, if it's legitimate, you have to break that record in the same amount of time that that player set it. If Kelsey Plum set that record in 4 years, well, Caitlin should have broke that record in 4 years. But because there's a COVID year and then there's another year, you know what I mean? So she's already had an extra year to break that record. Yeah, that'll go in the record books as Caitlin Clark is the all-time, whatever it is. I don't even know what the number is, but that's the way it'll be. And I don't think it should be.
Swoopes argued that such focus could place undue pressure on Clark, potentially stunting her growth as a player. She also pointed out that other talented players in women's college basketball were not receiving the same level of attention, which she felt was unfair. Swoopes' critique was not entirely unfounded. The media often has a tendency to latch onto a single narrative or player, sometimes at the expense of others who are equally deserving of recognition. In the case of Caitlin Clark, her ability to generate headlines and draw viewers has made her a media darling. But this comes with the risk of overshadowing other deserving athletes. However, it was when Swoopes questioned whether Clark's style of play was conducive to long-term success that the conversation took a sharp turn. She suggested that Clark's aggressive scoring mentality, while impressive, might not translate well in the professional game, where the competition is fiercer and the defenses are tougher. Swoopes' remarks were seen by some as a challenge to the narrative that Clark was an unstoppable force, destined for greatness. Dan Patrick, usually composed, appeared visibly taken aback by Swoopes' comments. He responded by defending Clark's style of play, arguing that her confidence and scoring ability were exactly what made her special. Patrick emphasized that players like Clark are rare and that her fearless approach to the game was something to be celebrated, not critiqued. Diana Taurasi, a name synonymous with dominance in women's basketball, recently found herself at the center of an unexpected showdown with the legendary Dan Patrick.
I saw where you said the WNBA, they're targeting Caitlin Clark. What do you mean by how she's being guarded or, enforced?
I think you and I both know the landscape that we live in today, both sports-wise and non-sports-wise, right? We are in a red-blue. And if you're red, you can't agree with blue. And if you're blue, you can't agree with red.
The moment was intense, leaving fans and analysts alike in shock. But just when the dust was settling, Caitlin Clark stepped onto the scene, delivering a performance that would leave the world stunned. This is a story of unexpected twists, legendary confrontations, and a rising star who's redefining the game. Diana Taurasi, one of the most iconic figures in the history of women's basketball, has been a force to be reckoned with for nearly 2 decades. Her career is a testament to skill, determination, and an unyielding competitive spirit. With countless records, accolades, and championships under her belt, Taurasi has solidified her legacy as one of the greatest to ever play the game.
The delusional fan base that follows her disrespected the WNBA players by saying she's going to go in that league and tear it apart. There were actually odds on like she's third or fourth in betting odds on being MVP at the WNBA. These people are so disrespectful and so unknowledgeable and so stupid that it gives women's basketball a bad name. Okay, so the kid was set up for failure right from the beginning. So if you're a WNBA player, and believe me, I've coached the best,
But even the most illustrious careers face defining moments, and Taurasi recently encountered one that sent shockwaves through the sports world. The story begins with Dan Patrick, a legendary sports broadcaster known for his sharp wit and deep understanding of the game.
And none of them are going to say it, but human nature is, okay, this kid's coming into the league, and Diana said it best, this kid's in for a rude awakening. And they all jumped over her, but they didn't read the whole thing that she said. But nobody's printing. Diana Taurasi was right. This kid's on the wrong team. She's got the wrong skill set to handle the physicality of that league. And she's a rookie. And if you're a WNBA player, if you're any kind of player, you're going to say, I'm going to make a statement. Targeted by society, targeted by her looks, targeted by her reputation, targeted by the disrespect that they've shown to the WNBA.
Over the years, Patrick has interviewed countless athletes, digging deep into their minds and challenging them in ways few others could. However, no one could have predicted that his encounter with Taurasi would be so consequential. It wasn't just a typical interview or a light-hearted conversation. What transpired between Patrick and Taurasi was a moment that many are calling the beginning of the end for the basketball superstar's storied career.
How do you think Clark is handling this?
I think she's handling great. I think she talks a lot of and she gets a lot of back. So she deserves everything she gets because she gives it as good as she gets it. She's just not built for the physicality of this league.
Yeah,
and she's not quick enough to get away from the physicality. So there's a lot of learning curve, like Diana said. And when she gets it, she has elite skills that are going to really help her.
Yeah,
but she needs to be on a better team, and she needs to be more experienced, and that will come. But for these ridiculous fans,
Dan Patrick's interaction with Taurasi was more than just a verbal exchange. It was a clash of titans, each representing different aspects of the sports world. Taurasi, known for her fiery competitiveness and unrelenting drive, has always been a player who thrives under pressure. Whether it's hitting clutch shots in the final seconds of a game or leading her team to victory, she has built a career on being the best when it matters most.
She's more of just a distributor, get the ball. Her game is more like Sue Bird's game. All right? And not that Sue had the physicality to play in that league, but obviously she's the best point guard ever. I think her game, the subtleties of her game will translate. However, her rookie year, she will get it as bad as Caitlin's getting it right now.
But Patrick, with his incisive questions and keen insights, managed to do something no one else had done before. He pushed Taurasi to a breaking point. As the interview progressed, Patrick's questions became more probing, challenging Taurasi not just on her career, but on her legacy. He questioned her ability to continue playing at the highest level, hinted at the inevitability of decline, and brought up the new generation of players who are nipping at her heels.
The WNBA tried to capitalize on her popularity and crammed a lot of games in over a short amount of time, playing against the best teams in the WNBA. Well, she struggled, and they started out 0-5. And then all of a sudden, she was over. To be able to see something before it happens, and that's a lot of what soccer is. It's something happens to something happens, and then it's going to happen over here.
It was clear that Patrick wasn't just asking questions. He was setting the stage for a confrontation that would test Taurasi's resolve like never before. For fans watching the exchange, it was both thrilling and unnerving. Taurasi, usually so composed and confident, began to show cracks. Her responses became defensive. Her demeanor more guarded. It was as if the weight of her entire career was suddenly bearing down on her, brought to the forefront by Patrick's relentless questioning. This wasn't just another interview. It was a pivotal moment that would have lasting implications for Taurasi's career. The interview left fans and analysts buzzing. Some believed that Patrick had simply done his job, asking tough questions and getting honest answers. Others felt that he had gone too far, pushing Taurasi to the brink and possibly hastening the end of her career. Regardless of where people stood on the issue, one thing was clear. The encounter had left a mark on Taurasi, and the world was left wondering how she would respond. But while Taurasi was grappling with this unexpected challenge, another player was making headlines: Caitlin Clark. The young phenom from the University of Iowa had been turning heads all season with her electrifying play. Clark, with her deep shooting range, pinpoint passing, and unshakable confidence, had quickly become one of the most exciting players in college basketball. But it wasn't just her skills on the court that were drawing attention. It was her ability to rise to the occasion, no matter how big the moment.